Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side.
Hi, my name is Jeannie, and this is Visaya in America. So I discovered that there's actually people that are tuning into my podcast. This is just a personal podcast about my experiences in America, not just in America, but as a Visayan living in America as well, like my perspective. And then I think I looked one time and like I had listeners in like random places like South Africa, India, and Russia or Ukraine. I'm like, it was pretty weird. And I'm like, oh, okay, people are tuning in like odd places. So yeah, this is my personal podcast. So yeah, this is my like personal podcast, and like I talk about lighthearted stuff. The other podcast that I have, Dreams to Reality, it's about like very serious stuff about like the subconscious mind, how the mind works. Like I'm a certified hypnotist, so that's just my other stuff that I do. That one is more serious and more directed, but this one is just like, lighthearted. It's about my perspective and yeah, just the light, airy, and fluffy stuff, because that's like my main personality actually. Like I'm not a serious person, but people seem to think that I'm serious, but I'm not. But I'm just perceived that way at times, and I actually like, I'm surprised that people think like I'm serious. Like, I think I pick and choose people that I joke with or tell jokes to, because like some people just don't get it because I don't look like a joker, but I'm actually a prankster, and I'm pretty sure my brother is happy that I'm away from him. Thousands of miles away from him, because I used to prank him all the time. And then that funny side did come out like in my last workplace. We were just having fun, because everybody wasn't that serious and they didn't take their job seriously. It was just really light, airy fun. And we were just laughing all the time there, for like a year when I was working there. It's just a lot of laughter and joking. And I had another coworker too. I think when we're together, we're just like, we like feed off each other's energy. Like he's a jokester and I'm a jokester, and it's just fun. Yeah, that it just worked, and it was very diverse. Like there was like Asians. I think there was another Asian there. And there's a South Asian, and people from Africa, and people of African descent, like literally like first generation, and and like African Americans as well. So it was pretty fun, and I love the diversity, and I love that everybody like was from all over the place. I think there was only one person from Houston, or one or two, I think, or three. I think there's three, but most of the people were just from everywhere else, and it was like nice. It's nice to have diversity in the workplace, and it was just a lot of fun. We were just having fun, but unfortunately, it didn't last long. Like everything, in this climate, in this time, like, yeah. So 2020, who doesn't remember that? Or it was pretty memorable. I can't believe that we're already like, we survived 2020 and we're now in 2023, because I remember in 2022 or 2020, in 2020, I just moved to Houston. I've been just bouncing around a lot at that point, and it was actually the COVID that actually made me stop bouncing around, and that's the reason why I've just stayed in one place. Otherwise, I'd be just still moving around. But so I remember it was my first week or second week of moving into Houston, and the pandemic happened, and the the lockdown happened, and I was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen now? Like, it was pretty uncertain. And I remember at that point, and it's gonna be March. I think the lockdown happened in around March, and I moved here like first week of March, and I think the lockdown happened in second or third week of March. I think it was like a week or like barely 2 weeks after I moved to Houston. I remember during the lockdown there was a lot of uncertainty, and I was lucky enough that I work in healthcare. I'm considered an essential worker. I was able to travel around Houston, because you're not allowed to if you're not an essential healthcare worker. And so my idea of Houston was like, oh, it's not so bad. The traffic here is not that bad compared to, New York and New Jersey, where I spent like 5 years of living in New York, New Jersey area. So it was pretty like, what do you call that? Like misleading, because I thought like, oh, there's no traffic in Houston because it was the lockdown, and I'm pretty sure everybody like with a car stayed home, almost everybody. And I was just zipping past like, yeah, this is the life, no traffic, it's nice, it's cool. And then now 3 years later, after the lockdown and everybody's free, the traffic's pretty horrible at times, especially during like rush hour. If you're ever in the area, just avoid like 610 and I-10. They're the worst. 69. And before I couldn't even name the highways. I was just, I don't know, GPS told me to go there, but now I can actually name the highways now, which is like a miracle. And I remember during the pandemic, like the second week, and the lockdown happened, I was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen now? It was pretty uncertain. And at that point, I think in the Western world, it was only Italy. Like Italy became like the whole country shut down, and like it was just everybody was just watching Italy, and then they were just like horrified, like it's like, oh no, what's gonna happen now? It was like very scary times. And to think that sort of like eerie silence also happened in America as well for like a month. And sometimes I think in other states it went on, the quarantine went on for like several months. And here in Texas, because like a lot of people here don't believe in the COVID for some reason, which it was real, man. It was real. I work in healthcare, and I saw like pretty traumatic stuff. Like it's pretty traumatic. And my aunt, she was actually like a nurse, like working during the pandemic, and she said it was even worse in the hospital and as a nurse. And she was able to talk about it last year, and she recounted like the horror stories. And she said like she was pretty like paranoid actually, because like she just watched a lot of people like pass away. So that was how bad it was. But who knew that 2020 would be the year where the weirdos and the conspiracy theorists were going to thrive? Because at that time, like, like the weirdos, those that don't like people, that stay away from people, they were actually the best ones. That were like, those people didn't get COVID because they avoided people in the first place. They didn't go out, They probably picked up their groceries. They did the curbside shopping, like, they picked it up and they just called in and picked up their food. So those people were the ones that didn't get COVID, and who knew that those types of people will be the people that would survive. Also, the survivalists, they were the ones that really thrived during COVID because they had all those skills, They were prepared, they had food, they had toilet paper, they had water. And these people could survive for probably 5 years in a bunker. And it was kind of strange. Like before the pandemic happened, sometime in 2019, I was just watching a lot of stuff on YouTube about like doomsday preppers for some reason. I don't know why I was watching it at that time, but and then I saw this woman. She's like, she had a bunker underneath her house, and she had like supplies, and then she had the food that would last for 5 years. And I think there's another person that had like 10 years worth of food, and then they could live off it, and then they had water, and it was just, they were prepared. And I'm like, what is wrong with these people? These people are crazy. And would you know it, those same people that we thought were like, okay, they have like tin foils over their heads, they're wearing tinfoil hats, but would you know they're the ones that would actually survive 2020, and they actually thrived during 2020. They were like very prepared mentally. And also, they had the toilet paper too, which is very smart, and at that time, although I was careful about COVID, like you were like, just like, I was stuck in a place, like I just barely knew Houston, I just moved there like a few days before the lockdown happened. And then I was like, suddenly, like, I didn't realize that people were buying all the toilet paper, and I was late to the party. I actually remember going to a Walmart, and I'm like, dude, where's the soap? And where's the hand sanitizers? They're gone. And then where's the toilet paper? And I was like, what's happening? Like, it was empty. The shelves were empty, and it was just all toilet paper was gone. The hand soaps and the hand sanitizers were gone. And I'm like, dude, what's gonna happen now? And I think at that point too, in the area where I was living in, and I think I found out later that was in the West District of Houston. It's called West Chase area, the A-Leaf area, and it was like, it was gone. Everything was gone, and I was late to the party because I was like, I don't even know, Houston yet. And so luckily I had a coworker, and she's been living, she's not originally from Houston, but she told me about where to get certain foods. And she told me, you need to go to this place, and the last time I heard, they still had the toilet paper. And I remember I was like, I joined that Facebook group where people were informing each other where to buy toilet papers, and where to buy chicken, and I didn't get toilet paper. I was also late to that. But at least I got paper towels. Yeah, I remember paper towels were gone as well. People were just wiping their butts with paper towels. At least I got that, right? But I actually didn't really need the toilet paper because I had plenty of toilet paper. I didn't actually run out. I never ran out, but I was just scared. At that point I was like, wow, when is this gonna last? Is this gonna last for months? Are we gonna live without toilet paper for months? But it so happened, I think it was just 2 months. The shortage was just 2 months at the most, or more. I think at the most it was 2 or 3 months. But after that, people were saying no, you're not allowed to buy rolls and rolls of toilet paper. I think they limited it, even the hand sanitizer. And I remember because I was so freaked out, there's no hand sanitizers, what am I gonna do? And at that time too, the CDC misinformed the people. They were saying it's not airborne, it's through touch. So I remember when I was gassing up, I was wearing gloves because I was I need to use hand sanitizers and gloves to touch everything because it's through touch, droplets. And of course we found out that it's not true. It's airborne, and they already knew about it. I think a group of German scientists already confirmed, hey, this is most likely airborne, but no one was listening. Everybody was it was haphazard. And yeah. So at that point, I was pretty frustrated, and it's the same. I was like concerned, like where am I gonna get hand sanitizers? And I think the Amazon, I had Amazon Prime at that time, which like everybody was just buying up the masks. There were no masks, and then the hand sanitizers were gone as well. So I did order on Amazon, but I think it was the arrival date was like April, and this was in March, and I think it was going to be delivered a month later, and it so happened I think it even got delayed. I think it didn't get delivered, my hand sanitizers, and they were pretty pricey. They were like $30. I didn't get them until later than April or even May. So it was like really like delayed like over a month. And so, and I didn't know that, but I was getting desperate, because they said, oh, it's going to be spread through touch. Don't touch anything. Like, it's droplets. So I said, you know what, I gotta find someone that has like hand sanitizers. I can't live without hand sanitizers. So I did find like a group of Filipino, like a couple. They were Filipinos, and they had like a food stall in one of the places here in Houston. And then they told me, you know what, since we own a restaurant, we can actually like just give us money, because they knew I was Filipino, and then we just talked, and then when that's the thing about the Filipinos, we're like, we have a secret code. Like if they know you're Filipino, you're in the club, you have certain privileges. So I was like, I told them like, you know what, I'm new here, I don't have hand sanitizers, and this guy who runs this restaurant, Filipino restaurant, he says, yeah, I actually have access to a hand sanitizer. It's like the kitchen type, or the restaurant type of hand sanitizers. It's the huge one. It's like a gallon. And then he said like, I'll just give him some cash. It was literally like a drug deal or something. But he said, just give me the cash, and then I'll buy it for you, And I did. I gave him like $25 or $30, and he came back with a gallon of hand sanitizer, which funnily enough, I still have I haven't used it up yet. I still have maybe a third or even half left there. It's like a lot. I think it's even more than a gallon. I don't know. It's huge. And then, but I used it up, and it helped me at that time. Maybe it was just psychological only, because we all know that COVID was through droplets. Part of it was droplets, but it was mostly airborne. So who knew, right, that the people that were survivalists would really thrive during 2020? I remember this many years before. I also had like a Filipino friend, and she was like into like conspiracy theories, and they watched a lot of doomsday preppers. And I think I just got curious, and I watched one episode, and I wasn't really into it. I don't like the end of the world thing. I mean, if it's gonna end, it's just gonna end. I'm not gonna be one of those people just preparing for it to end. I'm gonna be one of those people again, late for the party. I'm like, oh, it's ending. Oh, okay. So anyway, I saw this one episode from Doomsday Preppers, and apparently this man, he has like a family, and he was growing rabbits, and he said oh, we're not keeping them as pets, we're just raising them just in case there's food shortage. And he had that the paranoid scenario that the world is ending, the government was failing, and yeah, he was almost right. The government almost failed in 2021. But that's I can talk about that in a later day. Anyway, And like I was like saying like this guy's pretty weird, like, you know, like he's raising bunny rabbits and he's gonna eat them. And then he said, yeah, they're the best source of protein, their meat, and then I'm not gonna even let my children name them because they're not pets, we're growing them as food potentially, you know. And because he was saying like he had like that scientific thing where he was like saying like, yeah, because the rabbits, they breed fast, and in like 3 months or something, I don't know, you know, how long they breed when they have the bunny babies, but I can find out through Google, but I'm lazy right now. Anyway, he said, yeah, they're like, you know, they're good source of protein and they grow fast. We can breed them and we can, you know, raise them, and they're going to be our sustenance, and they're going to thrive. We're going to thrive for like months, you know, we're going to survive. And I was like, in my head, I was like, dude, like, this dude's pretty weird, you know? He's like a survivalist, like they're planning for the end of the world, like what's wrong with them? And would you know, there's the ones that, you know, they thrived in 2020. That was their year, man. Like the survivalists. That was like, yeah, I gotta hand it to them. They did, you almost got it right. Who knows? They might still get it right, but yeah, they thrive. They probably have boxes and boxes of toilet paper or cobs, you know, corn cobs. Use corn cobs. And I was told that that's pretty efficient in like wiping your bottom too, you know. So he was prepared, and apparently I wasn't. So, and who knew, like, the germophobes, you know, those people that wash their hands, and the people who wear masks, and then they stay away from people, and then they're, like, pretty weird, like, yeah, I'm not gonna talk to you, man, you have germs, and, like, I'm not gonna touch that, that's, like, that has a lot of germs and bacteria and viruses, and then they're the ones that, like, would spray the air with Lysol. Who knew, man, that those people would thrive in 2020? They did. I mean, it's like Lysol apparently kills COVID, and I think there was a study that showed that it was good for SARS-1 and 2, right? So the Lysol, those the people that collected the Lysol and like wash their hands like 50 times in a day, and then that sanitized, and that they, like, you know, were wearing masks, and that had like the air purifiers, and then they believe in like zapping, like using ultraviolet rays to zap germs. Those people would thrive in 2020, and they probably were most likely the ones that never got COVID, you know. They were the ones that avoided people, were afraid of germs, viruses, and they probably had all like shots, you know, the vaccines and stuff. Those people, man, those people would thrive in 2020. It's just funny. And especially the introverts too, you know, those people that just stay indoors, they barely get out, and they just barely go out, and maybe they just like, you know, when they go to the grocery, maybe they're just going to pick up their groceries through curbside pickup, or like just pick up the food from restaurants and then avoid everybody. Those people would thrive during the pandemic and probably never even got COVID. You know, they were like, yeah, I don't like people, you know, I stay away from people. Those people were the ones that survived 2020. They actually not only survived, they thrived. So the people, the weird doomsday preppers, the survivalists, the introverts, the germophobes, and the weird conspiracy theorists, that was their year. 2020 was their year. Especially the hoarders, man. The hoarders, you know, we think like, oh, that guy's so weird. Like, he's hoarding food, you know, cans and cans of food. I actually had a client before. It's funny, and this is my dog, by the way, if he's here, someone. Yeah, that's Bacon. He wants to join in on the fun. Do you want to say something, Bacon? Yeah, he's just licking. Okay, say something, Bacon. Okay, he doesn't bark on command. Okay, yeah, that's the dog. Anyway, so if you hear a growling sound, like that. That's bacon. So I remember sometime like in 2015 or something like that. Like I was still in New York at that time. Anyway, yeah, that's bacon. Bless you, Baba. Anyway, I had a patient and she was a hoarder, like literally hoarding food. Like every week, like I was treating her like I do home health, So I went to her apartment. This was in New York. I went to her apartment 3 times a week, and I kid you not, every week there was like someone was dropping off food. She was an agoraphobic, like she couldn't get out, like she was afraid of stepping out of her apartment. She would like have like panic attacks and stuff. She probably didn't have COVID too. Anyway, so what happened was, every week that I was there for, like, I stayed with her for like a month or 2, I think even more. And I kid you not, every week, I'm not even exaggerating, every week someone was delivering food to her apartments, and I'm like, what are you doing with all that food? She's just saying like, yeah, you never know. I actually made a mental note, and it was a bad mental note because I forgot where she lived. Anyway, like I'm like, you know what, if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, because around this time The Walking Dead was kind of popular, I think so, yeah, around that time. Anyway, I was thinking in my head, like, you know what, if there's a zombie apocalypse, I'm gonna go to this woman's apartment because she has all the food, man. So who knew that the hoarders, the people collecting food, like, food that the non-perishable stuff, like the canned goods, people that grow their own food, like have their gardens and stuff like that, self-sufficient people, they're the ones that were gonna survive 2020. And I'm like, dude, all the people we thought like, yeah, they're kind of strange, they're out of the norm, those people would survive 2020, and apparently the rest of us won't. Hopefully there's not going to be another pandemic soon. I hope not. I think hopefully it's just once in a century thing, hopefully, because the last one was, of course, the Spanish flu. So hopefully it's just a once in a century thing. But yeah, if you're ever, I think it's good to be conspiracy theorist, germaphobe, introvert, weird, doomsday prepper, or survivalist, and a hoarder. I think that's, you're most likely going to survive another pandemic, who knows. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and this is just, my topic for the day, remembering 2020. If you like this, I have more episodes. Like, subscribe, and share if you want, and check out my, Bisaya in America. And tune in. I'll make more content because I'm like actually inspired that people from South Africa, man, and Russia, and I think one time there was like someone from like Germany or the Netherlands, like really far off places, and I'm like, oh, they're listening in. So yeah, I'm inspired, so I'm gonna make more content, more regular content, and if you want to comment, write me at homeofgenie@gmail.com, homeofgenie@gmail.com. I have my content there. Also, I have a YouTube, but it's like my central feed. Also, like I'm a writer as well, if you want to check that out. Okay, and thank you for listening. Tune in next time. Until next time.